Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor, and I'm so excited to continue my series of Best of the Decade from 2010 to 2019. And now it's time to address the best films of 2015. Now, this was a hard year. This was probably so far one of the hardest, especially getting the order just right. Some fantastic films were released in 2015. I'm sure I'm not going to get to all of yours. They may not be in the order you agree with, but again, this is my list. That's why I have my channel to do the things I want, but I hope it inspires you to make your list down below because I want to read them too. Let's compare lists and see if I was close on any of them. But the way I do these lists, as you haven't seen these already, please check out the other ones. I've been putting some work in this. I'd love the support. But the way I do this is I read my top 10, but then before my top 3, I go through a list of films that didn't make the cut, as well as some that were almost on the list, as well as the worst of the year. So let's get to it. Best of 2015. And I got to start with number 10. This one, I'll be honest about this one. This is one that's a favorite to a lot of people. It's not my favorite film, but I have to respect it. There's another one, there's a couple on this list that earned their places just after I really challenged myself and thought, what films really summed up 2015? And you can't get through the year without giving some respect to Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. Look, it's not my favorite film. I think he did a better job last year in Wolf of Wall Street. And that was my favorite film. I guess that was not 2014. That was 2013, 2 years ago. That's when he really should have won the Oscar. I'm glad he won the Oscar for this. He does a great job. And Naruto does a fantastic job technically. This is a beautiful film, but it's so slow. It's so slow, and it's almost too artsy for its own good, where it feels like Oscar bait to a degree. That said, the more I've sat with it and I rewatched parts and really played it again, it is a really well done film. It's a really well done film, and the revenge and redemption story between DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, it's brutal. It's brutal to watch. While I do think it could have been, a little tighter. He clearly wants you to live in that world as long as he does, and he wants you to live through the pain that Leonardo's going through. And those scenes versus the bear are so visceral and some of this camera work is incredible. That shot where they jump over the mountain on a horse and you follow it down the thing into the trees. Look, I can't deny it's a technical marvel. It's a beautiful film. Leonardo does and Tom Hardy both do fantastic work. So I like the film. It's one I struggled with putting on the list, but out of respect, and I had to put it there. It's number 10. That's why it's at the end of the list. I know for a lot of people it's gorgeous and perfect, and it should be higher on the list for a lot of you. But for me, it just barely made it on, and it was a respect put because I do believe it's a very technically put together film, but it's not one I want to rewatch. But it's really, 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 really well done. And I did enjoy it when I saw it. And it's a theater-going experience. It's so beautiful. If you're going to sit there and do it, you really want to see it in its full scope. So Revenant, number 10 of my list of 2015. Coming in with number 9, now this was a film I did really like. It's disturbing, but it stuck with me all these years later still. Directed by Joel Edgerton, starring Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall. It's The Gift. If you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it. It is creepy as all hell, and it just keeps going in places I didn't expect it to. The performances are great. It's just, the sum up is sort of the bad things in life, they can be a gift, and sometimes they can't. So it's like Fatal Attraction. If you had some old high school colleague and then you realize, no, you were pretty shitty to that person back in high school. They've been holding a pretty massive grudge. Then what happens? What if they've been calculating their whole life to sort of try and get back in your graces, but then when they realize they can't make you pay for what you did, is sort of the questions asked in The Gift. And it just unfurls in this really creepy, exciting, thrilling way where you really ask again, I don't want to spoil it, but it challenged me. I liked thinking about it. I was disturbed by it. And it has a payoff, and makes you think at the end, like, damn, what happened? Wait, did that, what? Joel Edgerton, Jason Bateman, great performances. Rebecca Hall, it's just one of those creepy, creepy movies where you can learn from bad things, but sometimes there are going to be some serious victims in it, and that's the sort of the depressing end of it, the inspiring end of it. It's just a mind F of a movie that I highly recommend if you're in for that type of experience. Coming in at number 8 Another fantastic film. And once again, this director has now, all of his films of the past decade have made my top 10. I think easily pointing himself out as the filmmaker of the decade. I mean, it's unbelievable how many films this Denis Villeneuve made throughout this year, and they're all fantastic. And Sicario, I can't deny it. It's an amazing film. Feels like a Michael Mann crime drama, but with Mexican cartels and the CIA and on the border. It's just really well done. Josh Brolin, Emily Blunt give fantastic performances, but it's really Benicio del Toro's show. Sicario is Spanish for hitman, and you're going through this world of Emily Blunt we're following her journey of seemingly these operatives seemingly do the right thing for the right cause, but then questioning their motives as well, and realizing that you think, oh, well, the Mexican cartel's bad, but maybe the CIA is just as bad, and who learns it from who, and that's this whole journey of unwinding journey of sort of figuring out who's the bad guy, what lines are allowed to be crossed to protect a country, or is it all for someone else's bottom line? All of those questions really brilliantly asked, and the action in this is really tense, nail-biting, and disturbing. You wonder by the end, do people get revenge, or is it all actually for nothing? It asks a lot of questions. It's a really just wonderful script, wonderful director, and Denis Villeneuve, man, crushing it this decade rather. I'm a big fan of his work, and I never actually saw the sequel to this. I need to see the sequel to this. Obviously, as I get closer to the list, I'm trying to catch up on stuff I missed. I heard it wasn't as good, but the fact that they took spoiler, it could have been a prequel. I guess I didn't see it. They took Benicio del Toro's character, continued, just shows how much of a cool character he was and how we wanted to see more. So, look, I think this is a great film. Number 8 on my list. Another fantastic film. These are all fantastic films, obviously, but this one stuck with me. I really had a tough time placing these films. And honestly, if you ask me again in a week, I might change my mind, but I'm committing for this video for all of history, so it doesn't really matter the order. These are the top 10 for me. But Straight Outta Compton from F. Gary Gray. This one surprised me. I mean, I was excited to see this film, but I'm not a huge rap fan. I didn't listen to NWA. I knew of Ice Cube, and I knew of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, but I didn't know all of the beefs. I didn't know really how much drama was. I remember actually my brother had he would always play F the police or whatever. I remember that whole thing that went down. And it was a big deal back in the time, but I didn't really understand. I was too little. Watching it all unfold in the movie was just really eye-opening, and just shows you'd think Dr. Dre, really? What was he involved in? I mean, dude, mass respect, and just what he built, and always sort of keeping a cool head, judging by this biopic. Who knows how true, but it's seemingly pretty well put together. But the world's most dangerous group, as they're sort of called on the poster, they really had to go through a lot, and it's not just about their rise to fame from Compton, starting from the bottom and then really getting immense fame. And then what does that do to you as a person and your friendships and loyalties and egos, all of that stuff addressed. Drugs, Jason Mitchell, fantastic performance as Eazy-E, and O'Shea Jackson as Ice Cube. It's just, and Corey Hawkins as Dre, and Paul Giamatti. I mean, it's a really wonderful cast. I love F. Gary Gray did it, who had done Friday with that. There's some nods to that, and you can tell a lot of heart, thought, and everything went into this movie, and it works. It's a really rousing biopic of something more recent that I was surprised how exciting and meaningful the story was. Again, from the facts about police brutality they deal with, and then fighting the government for freedom of speech and everything else. It's a really important story. It's an exciting story. Straight Outta Compton whether you like rap music or not, Straight Outta Compton is a fantastic film. Easily one of the best of the year of 2015. Sorry, I'm doing all these. I keep forgetting which year's which. I've made a couple mistakes in my previous list. I'm trying my best. All right, coming in at number 6. Another great film. This one is just so creepy. Pre-Black Mirror, right around about that was starting to happen. This one came out from Alex Garland, and it still haunts me. Ex Machina. Alicia Vikander, what a debut from her. And then Oscar Isaac and Dominic Gleeson. No, right? Dominic, what's his name? Anyway, the redhead from, it's not Dominic Monaghan. I get them all mixed up. Anyway, fantastic cast, but just the premise of this and watching where is it going to go. And this, to me, this is such a creepy, wonderful film because I do believe at some point this is going to happen. Decades from now, people are going to go back and go, oh, that film, that's like now. It's gonna at some point. It has to. How far we're getting with artificial intelligence, robotics, and everything, it's only a matter of time before you can't tell the difference between the computer and the simulation, and a human being. Simulation or not? Is it real? Or do they have consciousness? And the film starts with Oscar Isaac bringing in this fellow colleague he's like a reclusive billionaire genius, Steve Jobs times a million, and he brings this other guy to sort of test his version of AI, to sort of test him to see if can he figure out if is she conscious or not, is she human, can he tell? And so he comes in and starts asking, and then obviously things go awry or questions are asked. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it already, but it's heavy. It's heavy, and it's just heavy because it feels like, damn, I know it seems like I'm being crazy, but no, guys, that'll happen someday. It's going to happen someday. Technology is only going to increase, and someday the computers will win, could win, and we won't even know the difference. And this movie just terrifies you because it takes on, she uses her sexuality and her friendship, and he falls in love with her to an extent, and then he questions his own, it goes insane almost in a way. It's just so many questions, so brilliantly done. Alex Garland became a one to watch and did Annihilation, right? It was Annihilation with Natalie Portman. Another interesting film. Not as good, but definitely a filmmaker to watch. And Ex Machina is definitely still, for me, his best. All right, coming in at number 5. I love being a radio DJ of the films of 2015. Here it is. Look, this one's... I see a lot of people appreciate this film, as they should. It's a wonderful romantic drama and great performances, and it got nominated for an Oscar, and a lot of people just didn't even watch it then, but they should have because it's an adorable film, touching film, and it's Brooklyn from John Crowley, starring Saoirse Ronan, and a fantastic performance. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story about an Irish immigrant who struggles to find her way as in life and in love, and finding home is really the core theme of this movie. When she's pulled back to Ireland after living in Brooklyn and trying to find her way, she's really forced to come to terms with what is her home. It's a really beautiful portrait of this character, and so many themes that I think are relatable for a lot of people, not just immigrants, but just anybody lost in life of what do they do and where do they, when they go to college or they move to a new town, how do you sort of find your way? And a beautiful love story, beautiful coming of age story in a way. It's just really beautifully done. I still love it. It's just a sweet film. It's not heavy like a lot of these other films I'm mentioning. It'll move you, but in a inspiring, I think, way, thoughtful way. That Brooklyn, just a beautiful film, probably the best of 2015 from that standpoint, from a romantic drama. And I'm glad it got so much Oscar nominations, a love and Best Picture. But still, a lot of people have put it off and never watched it. But it's worth going back and checking out some night for movie night because it's a good one. All right, number 4. Now this is where things got interesting because my list changed from when I made this list back in Screen Junkies days. I adjusted some things just out of my own reflection and rewatchability, and do I really still love that one? And this one was higher on the list. Now, still, number 4, great placement. I love this film, but this one was higher on my list for many years, and it's come down just from a rewatchability standpoint. I feel like the other 3 are more rewatchable and just have stood with me a little bit stronger. But it's a fantastic film nonetheless, and it was one of my favorites for a long time coming. I still think a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, it's Room, starring Brie Larson. Look, I still will defend Brie Larson as an actress. Room, Short Term 12, which was also on the list previously. She can act. Girl can act, without a doubt. And Room showed it. I remember watching this and just bawling. I mean, that scene. Well, hold on. Before I talk about the scene, I got to give props to Jacob Tremblay, too, who's doing amazing work, just nonstop work. Hiccups. Brie Larson, fantastic, but she's nothing without that kid. If Jacob Tremblay isn't somebody we really are rooting for and fall in love with and everything, her performance doesn't work. And so the two of them working together in partnership, they are fantastic together. It is heartbreaking, and they're just adorable together. And you're just rooting for them, and you're so saddened by this awfulness that's happening to about this woman who's kidnapped and being raised in a short, small room with her child, and he's never been outside of this room. It's just, as a father and everything, it's just brutal. But then there's an attempt to escape, and it's one of the most unnerving, nail-biting sequences of the year, easily. In a year of very high-octane stuff, it's just a unbelievably tense moment. And then as the film progresses, just inspiring but heartbreaking still. Just beautifully done by, who directs? Why am I spacing on... that's right, Lenny Abramson. Beautiful work by Lenny Abramson, and just a fantastic film. Great supporting performances as well. Joan Allen, that's right, and William H. Macy give great supporting performances, but it's really about them. Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay sell this movie. They make it work, and it's a beautifully done film. But again, it's not one I want to rewatch a bunch. And the next ones on my list were... and so while this one definitely defined 2015 for me, and it's number 4, it wasn't greater than the next 3, which may be up for debate, but that's where I'm going to go next, is label our next 3. But before I go to our next 3, it's time for a quick commercial break. All right, pre-roll ad hopefully went through. If it didn't, well, YouTube doesn't like me. All right, here we go. So before I get to my top 3, which is next, I want to go through some of the films that didn't make the cut, that almost made the cut, as well as the worst of the year. All right, very underrated film that I love. It was on Tarantino's best of the year that year as well. The Intern, starring Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro. Very close to unseating The Revenant. But that's ultimately, at the end of the day, I thought, look, this is a cute movie, but The Revenant's a really fantastic piece of cinema. I can't not put The Revenant on. So, but I really enjoyed The Intern. I was surprised how touching and cute and funny, and it's a really, really well done movie. That if you like those types of movies at all, De Niro at a really comedic best about this young woman who then hires a older assistant. And sort of what that can bring of sort of ageism and everything. It's a really well done movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I definitely advise you check it out. It's surprisingly better than I think you think it is. The Intern, very close to being on my list. Another one that was very close to being on my list was the Peanuts movie. The Charlie Brown movie by Blue Sky, really beautifully done as a kid's movie, figuring out how to adapt Snoopy and the gang, but in a new 3D sort of more appealing way. It didn't do very well. It did okay. But I loved it as a parent and as a viewer. It hit me. I thought it was beautifully done. It felt like the old school Charlie Brown specials, but updated in a new story, in a new way that respected the material, but made it its own and updated in a way that wasn't offensive. I really liked the Peanuts movie. If you have kids and you put that one off, definitely give it a shot. It's really fun, especially younger ones. Great tracks by Meghan Trainor. I'm Still Dancing song. My kids and I played that for so long. It's just a fun, catchy song that I loved it. I loved the movie. It's a great kids movie. It almost made my list. There's a lot of other more serious movies that made it before. All right, so those two almost made it. I was debating between. Then there was MI5, Rogue Nation. I thought it was fantastic. Rebecca Ferguson, fantastic in it. It's just a good job of a film. A lot of exciting parts. Tom Cruise delivers. Great film. The Martian. Look, I get why people like it. It wasn't my favorite, but that should be probably on a lot of other people's lists as The Martian with Matt Damon by Ridley Scott. And then there was The Big Short, which I liked, but it's just, I don't want to watch it again. It was fine. And then Spotlight, same deal. Like, ugh, it's so depressing. But beyond, it's depressing and important, but then not like The Revenant, where it's like, you don't want to watch it again. There's no, like, amazing technical achievement. It's just a really important story. You're like, damn, needs to be seen. And sure, but as a movie, I don't think it's that great of a movie. It feels like a TV movie, and it's not a movie that I think lives on in infamy. I'm surprised it won Oscars like it did. Spotlight, respected film, important subject matter, but not one of the best movies for me. And then Furious 7, weirdly enough, what a touching ending at the end of Furious 7 for Paul Walker. It hit me hard. I got to be honest. I didn't think a Furious movie would get me all emotional, but I thought they did a beautiful job addressing it. Film itself is but that ending definitely helped it tremendously, and not to be forgotten about in this year. Obviously, Star Wars Force Awakens opened this year. Look, I considered it. It's just, I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. It's a good start, but ultimately now as the trilogy is all out, all three of the movies just fall down a notch for me because I'm just like, well, for what's the point? You're excited for where The Force Awakens goes, but now that you know where it goes, don't care as much. And then Jurassic World. Look, I defended this film a lot. I know it's a dumb movie, but I enjoyed it when I watched it in the theaters. It was, I think, the best sequel to Jurassic Park yet, because it finally showed us a theme park filled with people. It was fun, rousing action moments, clever idea. I understood, it made sense while they were back and while they were using the nostalgia. And Chris Pratt was good. But look, I know it's not the best film of the year. I'm not going to fake it. And then those are the ones that almost made the list, and then some other ones that didn't. Age of Ultron, it was really disappointing for me. Didn't like that one at all. Terminator Genesis. Ugh. Actually, I might make... Is that my worst? No, I can't make that be the worst because our parts with Arnold were interesting. Now I'm looking at these worst. Trying to... Four Stick, almost the worst. Jupiter Ascending. That was just weird. But you know what? I'll give them props for trying something new. So then I'm between these four. 50 Shades of Grey, you know what? I didn't like it, but you got to respect some ladies did. And then I got three more I'm going through. I'm going to give Pixels a pass just because I've been so hard on Sandler. It's dumb, but it's just bright colors. The other two were just more offensive to me. I got to go Ted 2, almost the worst. Just for the worst offense of just not being funny. And came from such a funny premise to a terrible one. But I got to go Entourage the movie for the worst of the year. I was actually an Entourage fan, and years later, when the movie finally came about, it did not deliver, and it just reminded me like how that movie, the show, is just... I don't really want to watch Vinny and the guys just keep talking about BJs and stuff. It's like, let's grow up. I'm shocked it got a movie, to be honest. But it was just a very disappointing movie. It didn't deliver like the show at all, and then ended up not being funny, and then didn't go even bigger. Felt like it was lesser. The show that had Scorsese and Cameron and all these amazing people during the day, it was Haley Joel Osment and some really embarrassing cameos. So Entourage the movie I'm going to label as my worst. But that was a tough one. There was a lot of bad movies that year. I'm sure some of you could disagree with me that. All right, moving on to the top 3 of the year. Here we go. Number 3. Who's excited? Who thinks they know what it is? There's 2 big movies I haven't mentioned yet. And then there's this one. Creed. I love it. I love it. Look, in a year of Force Awakens, this one's earned more and more props because I realize, man, Coogler pulled off the impossible. He made an interesting Rocky sequel that not only was a sequel, but then reignited the franchise. It's fantastically done. Michael B. Jordan, so good. And it's Force Awakens done better, where they introduce a new character that you actually care about, that serves the other movies, and then allows the supporting the older characters that we know and love to come back in supporting ways that actually help. It's just really smartly done from a standpoint of reboot sequel that I don't think anyone's pulled off since. In rebooting. Creed is fantastic and should be remembered as that. It's a really rousing story, shot amazingly. It's just the fact that they could reinvent the Rocky franchise and actually pull it off without being forced or cheesy. I applaud Creed a lot. Creed 2 was fun. It felt like Rocky 2. So who knows if Michael B. Jordan and them will continue to make these movies. But I feel like they've probably, and they pulled out Ivan Drago for part 2. Like I feel like they've probably run out of things to do, but I got to give props where I see it. And Creed was an amazingly unexpected and smart move and put Ryan Coogler on the map to sort of become a one to watch without a doubt. And then coming back to follow it up with Black Panther, Coogler is a fantastic director. And this was a amazing opportunity to have a artistic director figure out how to work Hollywood and make films in a creative, original way, while still sort of playing with the rules of we need the things they know, the franchises we know. Bravo, Ryan Coogler. I give major props to Creed for pulling off of all of that stuff. All right, number 2. Number 2. Now this one, there's 2 big movies. If you're paying attention, you know this year. Maybe you don't. I'll keep the suspense. 2 big movies, and this one that's number 2. Was lower on my list for a long time, but over time I've come to respect it and understand why people love it so much because it is visually stunning, explosive. It is a technical masterpiece. The story kind of sucks. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Even all these years later, it still holds up. It's just, wow, what a film to watch. What, what a lovely day indeed. Mad Max Fury Road. Look, I was always a little bit more. I didn't dislike the movie, but I was over like best movie of the year because I just think this suffers from some story problems. But if we're really going to sum up 2015, Mad Max Fury Road really still, I think people still define this one as one of the best of the decade. And for a good reason. It is just George Miller, at his age especially, my God, pulled off the impossible. People on this film were like giving up on him, and he was just trucking away, getting this film made because he knew it. He had the vision. And I remember even Tom Hardy having to apologize to him at a junket later, being like, no one knew what was happening except for George in his mind. And I apologize because he was a pain in the ass in the whole movie. Thought this was going to be the dumbest thing ever. And sure enough, turned out to be, I think, one of Tom Hardy's most iconic roles, reinventing the Mad Max franchise by rebooting it, and did it in such a way that was just like, man, visceral, explosive, non-stop adrenaline ride. And as an action guy, I can't deny that was unreal. The sequences in this are crazy. You really feel like someone should have died during this movie. I just still don't know how we did it. So for all of those reasons alone, from a visually stunning, for its longevity and standing and becoming so iconic, that's why these movies pushed out Room for me, which was actually higher for a lot of time. But this one, I think over time deserves a higher placement. So I had to give it to it. I respect it. Mad Max Fury Road, you grew up on my list to number 2. All right. So what's that mean? We're at number 1. What's the number 1 movie of the year of 2015? This one was easy. This was the only one that was easy. When I made my list, this was the first one I put as number 1. It's always been my number 1, and it's Inside Out. Look, personal reasons. This movie, my son and I have really good memories of. I was really proud of him. He was young. He was still very little, and he loved Minions. He saw Minions, and we saw Inside Out, and then we went and saw Minions, and I figured, oh man, he's gonna love this movie, and it's so bad. And as soon as we saw it, once we watched it through, we had the chance. I was like, let's go to the movies again, buddy. What do you want to see? You want to go see Minions again? Or we could go see Inside Out? And he immediately, Inside Out. And I was like, yes. It's just the fact, and he was young. And the fact that he got it, a child could understand and enjoy, not just trying to say but so many kids, there's such an important story that they're telling. It's so brave and different and original and important of how to deal and learn to deal with emotions and be okay with your emotions and how to work with your emotions. Kids need that especially, but adults, I've learned, need to learn it too. And we all have competing emotions inside of ourselves. We get sad, we get angry, we get happy. We don't know how to stay happy. It's just, this movie is doing so much more than I think a lot of people really realize. It's beautifully told, beautifully directed. It's just a wonderful story. Look, Bing Bong. Bing Bong gets me every time, but that's not the best moment of the movie. The best moment of the movie for me is when Joy realizes she has to let Riley be sad. And it's so crushing, but it's so beautiful. And when she lets sadness have the controls, and sadness finally sees her worth, and they know that Riley has to finally cry with her parents. Guys, it's like getting me emotional again. What a story. And how did someone come up with this? We're going to watch the emotions, and we're going to make people care about these characters that are just emotions. It's stunning. I mean, from a visual standpoint in Mad Max, yes. Inside Out is doing it at the same time, but then giving us story that is worth knowing for decades to come. It is a beautifully told movie. It's an important story. It's so much going on in this movie that, without a doubt, I think Inside Out should be known for one of the best of the decade and one of Pixar's best. As we really unfold and see all the Pixar movies as they come out now, Inside Out is going higher and higher on my list than a lot of them because of the substance behind it. It stands up. It's going to stand the test of time. It is a story that is timeless. It's a great kids movie. It's exciting. It's funny. Great voice acting from Amy Poehler and everybody. But it's beyond that. It's just, what a deep movie and an exciting movie and an original movie. I think fantastically casted, shot, everything. And then don't forget Bing Bong. There's so much stuff about psychology and mental and dreams and everything. Brilliant script, and done for kids, and kids love it. I can't speak highly enough of Inside Out. Easily my favorite of the year. Not just a kids movie. It's just a wonderfully made movie. Pixar, bravo. So that was it. That was my top movie of 2015. Stay tuned for 2016. If you haven't watched all these and you just catching this one, go back. I got a playlist. You can watch all of these. Best of the decade. Enjoy them. I took some time to make these, so thank you for giving it a like if you like what I'm doing here. Comment down below to create engagement, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for the best of 2016 coming soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.